All right, guys. So we're gonna obviously kind of stretch out today. So today's theme is gonna be like we're gonna kind of lean a little bit more towards front split type of work. Okay, so effectively kind of just stretch the legs out, the hips out. Effectively, we're gonna get a still kind of a little bit of a work on the spine like we have been over the last 4 weeks, but we're not gonna be going into the back bridge work. Okay, so with that in mind, we will start with the spine first. Okay, so we just have the timer on. So we're gonna be up on our feet. And nothing too crazy to start off with. Okay, just kind of soften the spine up a little bit. As always, try and marry your breath with the spinal movement. We're going to start with the legs fairly wide. Okay, so it doesn't have to be under your shoulders or anything like that. It can be a little bit wide. And then we're going to just start to tuck the chin onto the chest and then slowly just roll down slow while the legs are firm. Okay, so the knees don't bend. Just moving the spine. And reverse engineering it. We're just going to continue with these two landmarks. Okay, so at the bottom, don't be scared to kind of pause for 2 to 3 seconds or 1 to 2 breaths. Okay, at the top, again, make sure you stand nice and tall and then restart the whole thing. As always, just think about tucking the chin onto the chest and really rounding the upper back. Okay, and the intent here is to go slow rather than try to set a PB. We'll get one more under the belt. Okay, so chin tucks in slowly. Okay, from here, feet are going to be roughly under the hips to start off with, but then we're going to take one leg in front of us. Okay, so I'm going to take my left leg in front of us, or in front of me. The right leg, the back leg is the side that's working. So all we're going to do is we're going to put the right hand, okay, on the right side of the head. And then we're going to drop the left side. Just nice and simple, nothing too crazy. And then coming back up. So kind of we'll just repeat this process, okay? And I want you to think about like, let the weight of the head, the hands, the shoulders really drop you down. And again, at the bottom, just maybe 1 or 2 breaths before you make your way all the way to the top. So obviously we're trying to get into the side body here, the obliques, even the QLs, the lower back region a little bit. Okay, and the best way to kind of do that is when we're at the bottom and we're pausing, okay, we can play with slightly different angles. So maybe, you know, we take that top shoulder a little bit more forward and you're going to feel that switch places a little bit. Okay, so again, be inquisitive in terms of where the stretch is being applied and how it's being applied. Again, as always, breath is the main thing. Last one. Okay, finishing that off. This time we'll take our right leg across the left. The left leg is the working leg, which is behind us. Left hand behind the head. And then slowly just reaching down. Again, pausing for 1 to 2 breaths if possible, or 2 to 3 seconds, and then boom, driving. Nice and tall. Okay, remember you can play with the angles here still. And when I talk about breath in, think about when you breathe in, you're breathing in below the rib cage as well, okay? So rather than kind of just making the noise of, you know, breathing in and out, think about where you're breathing into. Remember, you can slowly just, as you come down, maybe drop that top shoulder a little bit more forward, and just again, play with it. Last one. Okay. So from here, what we're going to do, guys, is we're going to use a wall, okay, which everybody has at home, and we're going to go into that wall work with the leg, okay? So the idea here is, I'll show it sideways so you can look at my pretend wall, but I'll just use the real wall for the time being. What we're going to do is we're going to have one leg completely on the wall, okay? And the leg, I'm going to forward so you can see a little bit better. So my feet on the wall can move around, okay? So you can see my toes as I kind of move my ankles, I can move around. However, the standing leg, okay, is facing, okay, straight ahead in that direction. Yeah, so we got this hip that on the ground, the feet that's planted and rooted on the ground stays sturdy as. We're going to have the other leg come into the wall. And then from here, we're going to explore angles for 90 seconds. And, you know, we can change angles up. We can work whatever direction we want to. We can rotate at the spine. So effectively what we're doing here is we're using the spine as a leverage, as a weight, okay, as a counterbalance to kind of get into areas downstairs a little bit. Of course, you're going to have to still organize and move your spine a little bit, depending on what position it's at. The only golden rule that I'll say to you is, again, you know, spend good quality time in places. Okay, so like, you know, let's say 2 to 4 breath in and holding that, okay, comfortably. So not trying to set a PB. And again, be inquisitive, you know, rotate around, play with different positions and see what comes out of it. Okay, so we'll go for 1.5 minutes per side. And 3, 2, 1. So just nice and simple, nothing too crazy. Okay. There'll be areas that feels nice and there'll be areas that feel like, oh God, what the hell is that? Okay, so again, just stay with it. I'm not gonna say there's a right or wrong move. Both legs are straight. Okay, that's obviously a given, hopefully. Okay, so both quads are firm. We're not bending the knees. We can move the spine in any direction we want to. The leg that's in the wall can also pivot. Okay, we can use the hands as well, just to kind of increase that lever. In the last 20 seconds. Slowly finishing our work off, and then limbs can return to normal. You can shake it off. Okay, and we'll repeat that process on the other side. So again, kind of, you know, don't be tied to just one position. Do look to kind of play and visit different things, but don't, you know, smash through things either. Okay, so remember, feet face one particular way. On the wall, we'll go in 4, 3, 2, 1. Slowly finish that work off. Boom. All right, so from here, guys, as I mentioned at the start, we're going to kind of obviously be working on a little bit of a more of a front split theme. We are still going to kind of move the spine a little bit like we have done in the last few weeks. We would love to kind of, if you have a ledge, a really thick book, or maybe a yoga block, okay, if you're really cool and have a slant board at home, then you can use that too. We're going to be getting to the calves a little bit later on, okay? But the first thing that we're going to do is something called tib sit, okay? So tib and tibs are just these muscles in front of your shin, okay? And obviously when it comes to, let's say, front split, okay, obviously our whole lower body, the front and the back, the underside is going to be, okay, addressed. So we're going to start with the tib sit first. And the way to kind of do this is, on the ground, it's pretty straightforward. You can just sit onto your tib, and this is going to be a stretch by itself. Okay, we're going to hold this for 90 seconds. If you do have, let's say, a cushion, a block, or whatever, okay, something that we can elevate those laces of the foot on, this is going to obviously then intensify the stretch a little bit. Okay, so again, this is not a necessity, okay, but this is going to get you a little bit deeper. Okay, now if the laces of the feet are more onto the block, you can see there's a little gap, and again, the intensity is a little bit less as opposed to when there's less of your feet on the block, because there's more of a gap, right? So again, make sure you choose the position right that's appropriate for you. And then if everybody's ready, we can start to sit back onto the heels. And then rather than guessing time, okay, we're going to just kind of stay here for 90 seconds. So most of the work that we're going to do today is going to be 90 seconds, okay? Time starts now. And I know it's not very exciting, okay, to kind of just sit here for 90 seconds, but take this as an opportunity throughout everything we do this morning, okay, to check in with the body, okay? So, hang on to, or when I say hang on, spend at least 20 to 30 seconds in a place before making any adjustments, right? So something like this, it may not come into, for some people, you may be already screaming in the first 10 seconds. Maybe that's a little bit too hard, too early, right? But if you feel like, yeah, this is not too bad, that's cool. Just sit with it for a little while and just see how this builds over the prescribed time. And then obviously the refinements that we're looking for are simple things like, can I tuck my hips under, okay, a little bit better? Can I keep my ribs down? Where's my weight? Am I actually leaning forward, or am I actually like sitting tall? Okay. I wouldn't kind of really say you need to kind of fall back or anything like that. Just think about tucking the hips and getting heavy in the laces of the feet. And just making sure we're breathing, okay, which is obviously one of the most important things. So this is a simple, straightforward tib stretch. Okay, so by sitting on the tibs, or sitting on the heels, really. Okay. Slowly backing it off. Okay, now you can just slowly move your ankles, get blood back in there if you want. The next thing that we're going to do is something called plantar, okay, sit, okay, so plantar stretch. So we're going to tuck the balls of our feet underneath us, okay, and sweep our fingers to make sure we're not crushing any toes, that we're trying to make sure we're trying to smash the ball of our feet. And again, if this is really uncomfortable for you, you can use the same thing that you had before. You can, put it back behind you so your hips are a lot higher. This is going to be a lot less resistance. But if you are good, we can look to kind of just get the butt onto the heel. Okay, so balls of your feet, let's start for 90 seconds here. And as we do this, as what I said in the tib stretch, just sit with it. Okay, so don't try and make it harder. Okay, and if you're already feeling like, oh my God, okay, just back it off a little bit. Remember, we need to have some sort of a stretch tolerance going into this work. Okay, meaning if it's too hardcore for the first 10, 15 seconds, then we're not really going to get the effect we're looking for, okay, from this move. So we need to regress it a little bit. And that headspace we have is, regress to progress. And when we sit with it, you probably feel obviously the underside of the feet, what we're trying to do. We're trying to load the feet, okay, underneath, okay, the surface that's underneath the feet. But as we sit with it, most of the time what we'll do is we'll start to feel the front of the shin that we just stretched out start to kind of, generate some heat and start to kind of like feeling tense a little bit. So your tips, the muscles of the front of your shins are now working a little bit hard to support us in this position. Okay, so while we're trying to load and lengthen the stuff underneath our feet, the things that are in front of our shins are now working hard and they're shortened state a little bit. So again, breathe. And slowly back out of it. And we can just, again, rotate at the ankles. Okay, get blood back in there. And then we can stand up. We'll go into the calf. Okay, so we did the front of the shin, the under the feet. We're going to get to the back of the calf. And for this, we're going to get to some calf, okay, stretch. Now, obviously, you can see I've got a yoga block here. Okay, so it makes my life a lot easier, something that I can raise the front of my feet on. I'm actually going to use a slant board, okay? But at home, you can use a really thick book, or maybe you have like a step or something like that. Now, what I would also suggest is, finding yourself close to a wall, okay, or somewhere where you can support yourself. So you can see I'm going to use a dowel. And the main reason for that, guys, is because we don't want this to be like a balancing exercise, right? So if our focus and attention is on balancing, then we're not really going to spend quality time loading the structures that we're looking to load, right? So if everybody's ready, nice and simple. Okay, you've got a couple of options with your feet orientation. So if you look at your feet underneath you, if you can, okay, rather than them turned out or turned in, try kind of have your big toes facing straight ahead for the time being. You're going to get different styles of stretches or different loading depending on that foot orientation. But for today, this morning, we're just going to start with a straightforward, okay, position. So if everybody's ready, we'll go in 4, 3, 2, 1. Here we go. Okay, and whether you're on a wall or anywhere like that, what I want you to think about is tucking the hips underneath you. So think about, okay, so hips go underneath you. And then think about driving that hip forward as opposed to your head or your shoulders. Okay. So I'm pretty sure everybody's seen, Michael Jackson's Smooth Criminal video. That lean, that badass lean that he does, that's basically what we're trying to go for here. Okay. Obviously, we'll never be good as him. Okay. But think about the hips driving forward rather than hinging at the hips, the whole body's falling forward at the ankle joint. And again, just breathing. We don't need to kind of feel an extreme stretch straight off the bat. Just sit with it, be patient. And as the body starts to yield, then you may need to then start to refine. So you need to go through those cues. Maybe the body will allow you to go a little bit more forward, okay, without breaking at the hips. Slowly backing it up. Okay, you shake it off. And then once we're ready, we'll go in 4, 3, 2, 1. So one side may feel completely different to the other side. This is why you want to make sure that you're, structurally you're doing the same thing or trying to load the same thing, but the quality may be slightly different. So just again, sit with it, be patient with it before you start to kind of make any rash adjustments. Keep thinking about tucking that hip initially, then driving that hip forward. Make sure your hips are nice and square as well. Okay, so you can play with thinking about that hip. Okay, so often what we say is like, imagine you're gonna push that back hip forward and the front hip back a little bit, so you're not twisted. Slowly back out of it. Okay, shake it off, whatever you need to do. Then from there, guys, we're gonna just give that lower body a quick rest, and we're gonna just make our way up to the upper body, and just kind of get some spinal movement happening. Okay, so a couple of movements that we should be familiar with from the last few weeks. Our bow and arrow and our T-spine rotation. So just a reminder, okay, for both of these, we're going to be in this sideline position. We'll start with the bow and arrow, pretty straightforward. The knees needs to be really nice and high, okay? So this way, where already this posterior tilt, my lower back is not going to be working. The intention here is to kind of really think about the shoulder blades on the back of your body, okay? So back of your ribs, that's what's really kind of pulling you and creating this a little bit of a rotation in the upper back, okay? Or upper to mid back. So for that to happen, what we're going to do is we're going to go for 10 reps per side. We're going to initially, with the top hand, reach forwards. We're protracting. So we're actually lengthening out. And then we're going to draw that arrow. Remember, the intention here is we drive the elbows back. Shoulders are nowhere near the ears, so I'm not kind of shrugging. But most importantly, when I kind of go back to my limit, as I hit that limit, I'm going to actually look to drop the elbows down towards the ground. So from the other side, hopefully you can see this better. Okay, we're going to drive the elbows back as much as possible, and then we're going to look to drop the elbows. Now, that dropping effect is what's going to really try to pull that rib cage and try to create that little rotation in the thorax. Okay, so again, we're going to be looking to kind of hold that, back position for maybe 1 to 2 count of 1 to 2. Okay, rather than 1 to 2 seconds. All right, so try stick with my tempo. Okay, so don't try to go any quicker. Okay, here we go. So we're going to start reaching, draw that arrow, and we'll drop down. And that's 1. Here we go. Reach, drop. 2. Reach, draw, drop. 3. Reach, draw, drop. 4. And 5. 6. 7. 8. 9. And 10. Let's go on to the other side. Okay. Okay, here we go. We're going to reach, draw, drop. 1. Reach, draw, drop. 2. Reach, draw, drop. 3. And 4. 5. 6. 7. 8. 9. And 10. All right, so from here, we'll go to the other side again. This time we're going to do T-spine rotation. So for this, there's a slight different setup in the sense that we want the bottom leg to be straight now. The top knee is still bent and quite high, okay? So one more time, bottom leg is straight, top knee is bent and nice and high. The shoulder that's on the floor, that arm we're going to just put on top of our knees to block that guy out. So the idea here is we're not gonna rotate or lift the knee up off the ground, okay? From that, the top arm is the moving arm. And what we wanna see here, guys, or the big idea is to try maintain, or create and maintain as much space in the shoulder joint as possible. And the best way to think about, kind of doing that is effectively reaching away from your shoulders, away from the middle of your body with your hands, wherever you are in space. Okay, so even if I'm like, let's say, just okay, so you can see this better. Okay, rather than kind of just having my hands here, I'm looking to elevate, right? So I'm trying to get myself, okay, as further away from the middle of my body as possible. If my hand was here, same thing, I'm gonna reach away as possible, okay? So that's the big idea in this rotation. The rotation is pretty straightforward. We're gonna have the hands hovering over the ground, as close to the ground as possible. My eyes are gonna gaze into that hand, slow, controlled. I'm gonna have to turn at the shoulder joints at one point. Then I'm gonna start that circle again. Now, as you saw, obviously the hardest position is somewhere over here, overhead. That's when we tend to kind of lift the knees up, or our hands are gonna be the furthest away from the ground. Also making sure we're gonna have to, start to articulate the shoulder joints a little bit too. So again, make sure you're creating space, make sure you're keeping yourself honest. And again, the smooth circle is what we're looking for. Okay, here we go. We're reaching, slow control, your eyes gaze. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. All right, let's go to the other side. Okay, so we've got the bottom leg straight, top knees bent and nice and high. We're going to use the bottom arm to trap the top knee. From there, my top arm is the moving arm, creating space. I'm going to reach and start my rotations. Oh my God, big crack. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay, beautiful work. So from there, quick drink of water if you need to. Otherwise, we're gonna start to go into, upper limb a little bit. I say upper limb, stick into the lower limb, okay? But now we look at the glutes, the quads, and the hamstring, okay? So for that, we'll need to set up for a super couch, okay? So remember the super couch, you can do this in a number of different ways, okay? I'll quickly show you at home. So often, where's my mats? There we go, okay? I'm gonna do this on the wall, but I'm gonna quickly show and share with you a couple of details. So, we've already kind of stretched out the tibs, okay, so the front of the shin essentially. And if that's something that you really struggled with, you're probably gonna benefit more with this kind of setup where, on a couch, literally, okay, your laces of the feet can be, on the couch, and we can drive up in this position, Okay, you can see on the wall, we will need or we'll be limited by how flexible we are actually from the laces of our feet. So although obviously it's the same thing, make sure it's the right setup for you. Okay, so I'm going to use the wall. And what we're going to do here, guys, keeping it very straightforward, I'll talk you through it. Just a 90-second hold like we have been doing. And the big idea is, like exactly what we've been focusing on, making sure that we stay patient with the stretch. Okay, so don't kind of, crank things so hard right off the bat that you can't hold this for the duration. Okay, so nice and simple. Okay, we want the knee to be as close to the wall as possible. Okay, and then from there, we're going to slowly start to posture up. We've got the front leg that's going to help us. Dropping the rib cage down and then bringing attention to the breath and our position. Our intention right now is to see if we can drive our butt back onto the heels, okay, but without arching our back. So without, posturing up in a way that you are extending to the lower back. You want to keep the rib cage down, so that may mean for most of us, our ribs are down. We say kind of ribs down, effectively this punching effect. Okay, that allows us to turn the butt on a little bit more powerfully. And then we just want to make sure we breathe and keep the hips square. Okay, last 30, this is where the magic happens. So again, tolerance, breathing. The adjustments are keeping those hips tucked underneath you. Using your breath to calm everything down in the body. Structurally, making sure, again, ribs are down, so your lower back is not extended. That's time, so slowly hinging forward. Okay, and then backing that guy off. Okay. And again, you can just take a moment to kind of get the blood flow back into the legs a little bit. Okay. Boom. Once you're ready, we can start setting up for the other side. So, knee close. When we're ready, slowly starting to posture up. Boom. So again, the hips are tucked. And you may find one side is, again, a little bit different in terms of quality of the stretch, right? So again, don't crank anything up. Think about the structures. Can you keep the rib cage down? Can you stop extending in the lower back while we're trying to push back onto the heels of our back leg, right? You can use the front leg to help you out. So again, if I'm stable, if I'm actually using and creating tension, then I'm going to be a little bit stable. Okay, often we start to lose balance when one of those things is not working properly, right? So it's have to bring your attention. It's just being structurally sound. Breath. Slowly hinging and backing it off. Okay, so from here, what we'll do, guys, is we'll go into our glutes first. Okay, so our external rotators of the hips before we're going to go into our hamstrings. Okay, so for the For the external rotators, we'll keep things very, very simple. Okay, active pigeon, something that we started, we were doing a bit of when we first started, when the lockdown kicked in. Okay, and the intention here is again 1.5 minutes, exactly like what we have been working on everything. These long, slow holds, okay, or long holds, not slow, I mean, it will feel slow. Long holds are an opportunity for you to tune to the body. So think about the adjustments that you make sure you're staying patient with the stretch. And again, if you're feeling too cranked straight off the bat, it's probably a little bit too hard. So remember with the active pigeon, the setup we want, okay? Let me just do it on this side so you can see better maybe. So, give or take, the front leg is at this 90 degrees, where you can see kind of my knees are 90 degrees, my ankles are 90 degrees. Now, ideally, we want to maintain this position when we go into the active pigeon, right? But you will see, even I, okay, have to start to regress this by bringing the heels back in towards me a little bit. But think about where the thigh bone is, okay? So if you see this from the front, okay? So 90-90, you can see this joint, this femur is like, in line with my hips. So when I throw over, my weight's over, I want somewhere, I want this to be as close in line with my hips as possible. But if we're too restricted, that's going to crank and piss the knee off. So we have to learn how to regress things. And the two ways we can regress is by bringing the heels back down a little bit and having the knee slightly on the outside. Okay, so those are your options to make this a little bit easier. But also think about it from a point of like refining. As the body yields a little bit, your job is going to be slowly, rather than kind of being here in this position, slowly starting to get yourself in line with this. Okay, it will make sense when we kind of go into the position. Okay, oops, there we go. Okay, so remember, we're going to throw ourselves into this active, the pigeon position. Back leg is going to be straight. From there, I'm going to place my elbows under my shoulders. We'll start the time officially there. So straight away, you're going to feel, hopefully, things on the outside of your butt. Some of us may feel in the inside of the hammies or the adductors a little bit, okay? So think about, again, breathing here. And the back laces of the feet is relaxed, and I'm reaching back as if somebody's standing back behind you and pulling you further back. Now from here, we can actually make 2 fists, okay? And then rest our forehead on top of those fists. So my spine is rested now. Okay, we're still kind of trying to adhere to this notion of being elongated. So I'm still trying to get long, not just from my feet behind me, but also my spine, okay? So, think about allowing your breath to melt you into the position. Okay, the passive nature of the spine is going to be the load. Okay, so think about the notion of that squaring the hips up a little bit. As the body yields, it's a very, very small change. Okay, so again, without dropping to the side, can you actually take your hips to the side? So can you start to square yourself maybe? Maybe you're not in a position to do that. That's okay. But use your breath. And then slowly back out a bit. I feel like the 1.5 minutes was just starting to get me somewhere. It needs to be longer. Okay, so from here, same thing on the other side. We're going to bring ourselves into the pigeon pose. Okay, nothing is cranked. We're going to slowly drop the elbows. Boom. Okay, and then think about that elongation of the body. So something to be mindful of, okay? So depending on obviously how flexible you are already or how restricted you are, something that kind of we tried, similar to kind of strength work. This is a very, very rough analogy, but similar to that strength work, let's say we can choose to kind of, stretch anywhere between 3 to 6 minutes, okay, on a certain place or a certain kind of muscle group, if you like. That's going to really kind of, that's basically going to create the best environment for us to make some long-lasting things, okay, changes, right? Obviously, we can obviously break them up as well throughout the week, right? So, like 1.5 minutes here, 1.5 minutes there. Now, the reason we have such a big time range is because, well, if you're already quite flexible, then you don't need to kind of hang out too much. But you can see, hopefully, those people who are tight, we actually need to spend a little more time under tension, or we need to spend a little more time allowing the nervous system to let go a little bit for us to familiarize yourself here and have this range accessible. Unfortunately, we can't just crank things up. Okay, so unlike strength work, we can't really do this with intensity in mind. When we're ready, slowly backing it off. Boom. Okay, so from here, what we're going to do is you're going to need a wall, okay? And what we're going to do here, guys, is something we call Hammy Chaos. Okay, so this is going to be for the hamstrings, okay? So just kind of watch me first. It'll make a little bit more sense, hopefully. So we're going to have, okay, one knee down, and then we're going to have one leg straight. Now, this box is basically my wall, so you can see from side view what we're looking to do, okay? Now, ideally, again, okay, you will see my feet, okay, although I want to be flat, okay, it's not going to be flat, right? So often what we do in the studio is we use something like a yoga block to help us create that angle, and then obviously we press that against something like this. Okay, so we can, again, do our best to kind of do this in the wall, okay? But the key thing here is our intention is to try and keep our feet flat on a surface, okay, or as best as we can, all right? Now from there, the cool thing about the wall, okay, or this box in this case, the wall may be this high for you, we can lean onto the wall with our hands, okay? And the intention is this, again, I'm not looking to kind of round, I still need to keep my spine a little bit elongated. Okay, and this is what we're going to do for 60 seconds. We're going to look to drop our chest down towards the feet. We're not kind of rounding, not this way, not by sinking back, but rather pushing forward. So the cues that we're going to throw out is going to be, hey, we're going to look to as if pressing the brakes, okay, into, okay, the yoga block or the wall, right? So we're pushing our feet into the wall here. Now, as we do this, the same hip joint, we're trying to pull the hips back into the socket. So that bottom, okay, portion is pressing down while the upper limb is coming back a little bit. Obviously, we don't want to be twisted or anything like that, okay? So here's the deal. We're going to do this for a minute. So this is less work than what we have been doing. 60-second hold. But at the 60-second mark, okay, what we're going to do is if you have something in front of your feet, you're just going to remove it. Okay, and then what we're going to do is keeping the toes pulled back towards us, we're going to look to lift the leg up, like so, from this, okay, our hip flexors. So think about all the compression work that we've done, okay, effectively. Now we get to see where we're at with that, okay? So we're going to go for 10 leg lifts. Again, try adhere to my tempo rather than, the old one of these. If it doesn't come off the ground, that's totally fine. Okay, remember you can always walk your hands back up a little bit and come up in a place where you can, right? So if everybody's ready, let's get busy with the Hammy Chaos, okay? Nice and simple, nothing too crazy. Okay, position yourself, make sure you're not twisted. Okay, so if everybody's ready, we'll go in 4, 3, 2, 1. So the chest is proud to start off with, and maybe the eyes are gazed onto the wall in front of you, okay? From there, push your feet into the wall or the yoga block or whatever you're using, keeping the legs straight. Now pull the hips back in the socket. So what you're doing is you're pulling that front hip back and the back hip forward, okay? As you do this, keep pressing in the yoga block or the wall. Chest comes a little bit further or closer to the wall. Let's go take that check-in again. So press the feet into the wall, pull the same hip back into the socket as you push the opposite hip or the bent knee hip forward. Chest is continually reaching forward, okay? Okay, from here, Keep the toes pulled back. And then let's kind of get into the leg lifts. Here we go. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Hold. Keep holding. And down. Rest. Okay. So hopefully you felt that. Okay. So you can see this is obviously a little bit more intensity derived. Okay. So we're looking to kind of effectively open the hamstrings up, but then use the strength of the front of the hips to just reinforce that. Okay. So let's have a Gary on the other side. Okay. Our feet should be set up. Okay. Boom. I wish I had a bigger box. Okay. From here, we'll go in 3, 2, 1. So pressing your feet into the wall. The same hip comes back into the socket. Up. Chest is postured up, but we're reaching forward with the heart. Okay. And again, breath. You want to continually make sure you are adhering to those 3 things for the time being. So that's press the feet into the wall, pull the hip back into the socket. Chest is proud, but the heart's coming to the wall in front of you continually. Again, squeeze your quads or squeeze your thighs. Press the feet into the wall, pull the hip back into the socket, reach forward with the heart. Squeeze the quads, push the wall, socket back, reach forward with the chest. When you're ready, okay, toes pulled back, firm, and let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Hold. Keep lifting up. Keep looking at your toes, pull them back, higher, and down. Okay. And rest up. Good job. Okay. So let me set this guy up. Quick drink of water if you need to, guys. Okay. Just to clear things up. So we're going to go into a little bit of a shoulder opener quickly. Okay. And the shoulder opener is going to be very, very simple, straightforward. What I would suggest is you can use a wall, okay, for this. And we're going to go into a little bit of an extension work, okay? So meaning the position, shoulder extension is arms back behind us, right? So normally we do things like tabletop and, a couple of different variations that we've been implementing. What we're going to do is I'm going to use the box just so you can see from the side view, but you can do this also like on a couch or whatever's, available behind you. The wall, it works as well. Okay. So what we're going to do here, guys, is effectively, we're going to place our hands back. Okay. So you can see this is going to be already, okay, loading the shoulders up. Well, this is already a weird position to be in for most of us, right? The reason being we're not so used to having our hands back in this position, never mind actually doing some strength type of work. So be mindful, okay, if this is too cranking or too pissed off, okay, so obviously we need to lower the hands up so we can, work on the lower, obviously on the wall, same thing, okay. From here, what we're going to do for 1.5 minutes is similar to what we were doing on Tuesday. We're going to scoot our butt forward. Okay, now as we do this, we just have to load a couple of things. We need to still think about the shoulders. We need to squeeze the shoulder blades, and then our ears need to be nowhere near the shoulders. So I often like to think about as if I'm going to push the box down to get myself to the ceiling. So I'm doing this motion here, and that needs to be throughout, okay, the 90 seconds. So again, if you think you're not feeling something and you end up going a little bit further to, kind of load it up, and then you figure out, oh shit, it's too hardcore. Okay. So again, stay patient, and I'll give you every 30 seconds, but think about just wait for 30 seconds minimum to make any changes. Okay. In terms of the loading. Okay. So if everybody's ready, let's get those hands back behind us. We'll go in 3, 2, 1. So already wherever you are, think about squeezing the shoulder blades and lifting the chest up. Your eyes maybe gaze up to the ceiling a little bit. Okay. Think about squeezing the shoulder blades together, pushing the arms down. Now, the closer your arms, the harder it's going to be as well. Okay, so you should know this from the tabletops. Okay, first 30 seconds gone. So if you need to make any adjustments, i.e. walk forwards or move your arms a little bit, that's okay. It should be just a small change though, nothing drastic. Otherwise, if we just follow the same cue, we should be able to relax into this position a little bit, right? So we're going to feel that stretch come through maybe the biceps, maybe the front of the chest. Okay, but there should be no pain. Okay, especially in the neck, in the traps. Now that's going to happen if your hands are too high. Okay. Last 15 seconds. Keep thinking about squeezing the shoulder blades or rolling your shoulder blades back together and then pushing the chest up to the ceiling. Okay, but maintaining that rib cage down. Slowly come back and rest. Okay. So from here, the same thing, okay, onto the box. We're going to just open the shoulders up a little bit. We've been doing shoulder openers on the ground. We're going to go into this 1.5 minute work. And again, we can use that couch. Okay, same analogy. The key thing with this, guys, is as we talk about from the shoulder openers, we need to make sure this region of the shoulders. Okay, so this guy, and not this guy. Okay, so we need to load this part of the shoulders, not this. And the way to do that is, although our intention is to reach up, we're trying to wrap the armpits. The idea is to create this external torque or stabilize the shoulders down here. And that's what's going to allow us to kind of extend and start to load certain structures up. Okay. However, if we're not engaged through there, what's going to happen is as we come through, we're going to start to feel things through the front of the shoulders, which is not a nice thing. Okay. So at the shoulders, we're going to make sure, okay, we're stable. And then look at my knees, they're going to come back. For the 90 seconds, here are a couple of the things I want to play with the hips. The first one is we've got this posterior tilt, so we're tucking that butt underneath us. As we do this, we're trying to bring our chest down to the ground. And then we've got this anterior tilt, so you can see I can actually automatically come down quite low. But then think about not ducking your head through, so not punching your head through. Your head is still up a little bit, and it's trying to maintain that that wrapping of the armpits throughout both positions. For the last 30, you can do whatever feels good for you in terms of, decide what position was, better loading for you. And you can either tuck your hips or you can unwind the hips, or you can do a bit of both. Okay. But for the first minutes, we're going to spend some time in each position for 30 seconds. Okay. So here we go. Hands on the ready. Okay. Knees into the hips, tuck the butt for the posterior tilt. And again, we should be sturdy from the lower back, sturdy from the shoulders. Slowly starting to just trying to pull ourselves actively down to the ground. That's what's going to really load things up. Okay. But make sure the neck is nice and long. So just because you get your nose closer to the ground doesn't mean you're actually coming down to the ground. Okay. So wrap the armpits, tuck the hips. Keeping the armpits wrapped, you can now unwind your hips to anterior tilt. Okay, so the belly button can drop to the ground a little bit. You will see the chest will come down to the ground a lot easier now, but again, don't lose it at the shoulders. You're still trying to face the shoulder blades to the ground. Okay, think about the butt is trying to reach to the back wall. So you're getting this lengthening sensation as well. From here, it's up to you what position you spend time in. So again, you can get a posterior tilt again, maybe a little bit without losing tension of the shoulders. Still trying to get the butt to hit the back wall and the chest to the ground. Maybe it's an anterior tilt position. Slowly walking these in, and then boom, rest. Okay, so from here, we're going to just kind of go for a minute per side. This is our last piece of work. Okay, on each side. Oops, what am I doing? Minute. There we go. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to just hold a front split isometric. Okay, so what I'm going to allow ourselves to do here is we're going to do this in more of a passive state. So going with the theme that we have been going all morning, meaning we want to be able to relax in this position as much as possible. We're trying to basically not a active, okay, isometric, meaning we're not trying to create our own tension or strength, okay? So what I'm going to do here, guys, is, you know, we've got the hamstrings, we've got the bottom of our feet, we've got the glutes, all that kind of stuff looked at. For a minute, what we're going to do is, okay, so whether it be a couch or a wall that you need as a support, maybe, you know, you have two stools, I don't know, whatever kind of thing, maybe, okay? But from here, we're going to look to, okay, have the front leg straight as possible. Now think about, okay, the laces of the feet of the back, like your pigeon, it's going to be relaxed on the ground. We're going to pull the toes back, and we're just going to maintain this upright posture. Think back to your super couch. What I want you to think about is you're not kind of throwing your head back. Yes, you're going to have this arch to the lower back. That's normal, but your butt is working somewhat to stabilize. Now, again, for 60 seconds, if you can't hold this position, that means the loading is too great, okay? We need to regress it a little bit, okay? So whichever side I demo, I'm going to go the opposite side, okay, first. So the support, okay, is on the back leg side. Position, we'll go in 4, 3, 2, 1. So think back to all the work that we've done, the Hammy Chaos, okay? Can you push the front feet down, but pull the hips back in the socket in the front leg? Okay, like the super couch on the back leg, can we get the glutes on? Okay, boom. And then think about lengthening the hip flexors. Then can I marry the breath? Can I stay upright as possible? So again, my front leg, am I pushing my toes down, pulling my hip back in the socket? Okay, back leg. And just allowing the gravity and the body weight to take over. Breathe. Slowly, boom. Back it off. Okay, and we'll go to the other side. I actually need a yoga block. Okay. Here we go. In 4, 3, 2, 1. So again, is my toes pushing down in the front, hip back in the socket, okay, in the front leg, and the back leg. It's more like hip flexors, glutes are on. So as you can see, I've got a yoga block on my outside leg as well. That support really helps. Okay, I apologize. I should have said that beforehand. So again, if we have to balance, it takes away from loading the structures of being able to relax in the position. Okay. Slowly back out of it. All right, team, bring it in. Let's have a chat. How is everybody feeling? We good?
Good. Glute.
Yeah, that was good.